So we are at session 30. We have around 11 more sessions to go. And today, well, on the hour right now, we are joined by Dr. Bia April for the session exploring the impacts of AI in a futures real world. Just going to introduce all of our amazing facilitators today and then give you the show. So, Yasmin is a student at a STEM school and has immersed herself in the exciting world of technology and self learning. With an insatiable curiosity, she constantly seeks to expand her knowledge and stay at the forefront of emerging trends. She firmly believes that technology holds the key to shaping our future in profound ways. Dr. Bea Rodriguez is a certified foresight practitioner, a decolonial design futurist, and a TED speaker, currently serving as Arizona State University's Director of Next Lab Imaginarium. She facilitates ideation, design thinking, and futures thinking sessions with students, staff, faculty, and various partners to boldly imagine and co-create humane technology and equitable futures. And a seasoned educator, April has served as the executive director and has been with the Future Problem Solving Association for more than a decade. Her background in advanced curriculum strategies and highly engaged learning techniques translates well in the development of materials, publications, training, and marketing for organizations and its global network. April's expertise includes pedagogy and strategy for critical and creative thinking and providing quality educational services for students and adults worldwide. This session will begin with an overview of how AI technology is being used in education and an introduction to the future's wheel. So, without any further ado, I will hand it over to you in just a bit. Before that, this is a reminder to everybody that we are Teach the Future, a global nonprofit working to include futures literacy in the school curriculum. And this session is hosted by Teach the Future and Young Voices Network in partnership with the Millennium Project. World Futures Day is a 24-hour-long intergenerational conversation about the future and a space to involve both young people and futurists in anticipating and influencing the future both in and out of school. So please take the floor and thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you everyone for joining us. Welcome from myself and from Dr. Bia and from Yasmin. We do have a Mentimeter. If everyone would please, at the very top of the screen, you will see menti.com and a code. If you would join us on Menti, we can gather some information to get to know our audience. Okay. So if everyone's on, we do have some questions to get to know our audience. We will have some get to know each other questions. Then we will introduce the futures wheel. We will introduce artificial intelligence, AI, and we will actually do some hands-on practice creating a futures wheel and acting on the futures wheel. And at the end, we will, of course, have time for Q&A, question and answers. So our first question, if you would please write in where you are from. Give one more minute. What a diverse group from around the world. Thank you for including that. I see that we are representative of many of the continents.
Including Mars, April.
Mars.
So this is a first that we have someone from Mars.
Oh, yes, I do see that. If you would now please share your age range just so we can get a feel for the age of our audiences. Perhaps many of our youth are still in school today. Okay, our next question will give us a little insight into your interest and your preferences. Are you more interested in how AI works or how AI is used? So the science behind how it all works, or how AI is used in schools or communities, but the application of AI. Okay, looks like definitely preference here on more interest in how AI is actually used. Our next question, how do you interact with artificial intelligence in your educational setting? You can add more than one answer on this one, so feel free to keep generating a few ideas if you wish. One of the tools of creativity is piggybacking or hitchhiking. So please feel free to read the ideas that are there and come up with ones that might relate to things your colleagues are also including.
Really interesting to see that a couple of people have written down, I use it to find out what my blind spots are.
I liked that one too.
Yeah. As people are writing down their responses, could someone just share a little bit about that? Anybody who wrote the blind spots?
Hello, Dr. Bea. Typically, we always think we know everything and without ever realizing.
Great. And do you use ChatGPT or other?
Primarily ChatGPT. I didn't venture into the the newer ones, but eventually, I guess I have to have some kind of a course to learn its functionality, as it's known as ChatGPT or AI piloting to learn the prompts and everything. And I'm sure the librarians will catch up because the librarians provide the best research, search strategies, secondary research tactics. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're ready for the next question, unless anyone else wants to expand on some of the ideas that are included. Okay, thank you for sharing great ideas. Okay, our next question is, are you familiar with Mural whiteboard? Okay, great. So we do see that we have a wide range of background here. We have some people who are familiar with Mural whiteboard, and the others are excited to try it, which we will do throughout this session.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So today our focus is on learning a foresight tool called the Futures Wheel. How many have heard of the Futures Wheel? Just raise your hand. Great. So Basir, you're familiar with it. Good. And Christina, good. So this will be a review for you. Amna, very good. Great. Good, Scott. Good. So for some of you, this is a review, and some brand new. This was created by futurist Jerome Glenn back in the 1970s. And it's a method for visualizing both direct and indirect consequences of a particular change, whether that change is an event, a policy, a trend, or decision. So when you have a change that you'd like to anticipate what the impacts are, you would write that particular event or decision or policy or trend at the center of this wheel. You'll see change here at the center of this futures wheel. And then radiating out of that center are the red bubbles. These are the first order consequences, meaning what are the direct results of this particular change? And when you're thinking about the direct results, usually we choose multiple categories, multiple domains. So, for example, what is the impact of that change on society, on technology, the environment, economy, politics, philosophy, right? And then after you've brainstormed the impacts, the direct impacts of that, you would then look at each of the red bubbles, the first order consequences, and anticipate the impacts of those results. So you keep going until you get to the third order, even fourth order consequences, and you'll see that there will be both intended and unintended consequences of that particular change. Now you can also overlay time periods. So for example, for the first order, you might want to focus on the first 1 to 3 years after implementing that change. The second order could be 3 to 5 years. And then third order could be 5 to 10 years, and so on and so forth. So it really depends on what you're analyzing or anticipating. Any questions so far? You can always ask me questions as we learn this tool. Okay, so it's clear. Good. So why do we use the futures wheel? We use it primarily to imagine possible futures. So as you can see, when we have an event or a decision or a trend, sometimes, or a certain new technology, sometimes there are unintended consequences that we didn't anticipate. So this is a way for us to exhaust all of the possible futures, depending on that event or policy or change. It promotes critical thinking, and it identifies opportunities and risks. So you'll see how we'll be able to do that later on during our hands-on practice. Things to keep in mind when we're doing this, again, we identify both positive and negative consequences. We consider both short-term and long-term impacts. And again, we choose multiple categories when we're thinking about the impacts, whether it's on education, environment, technology, health and well-being, and so on and so forth. Okay, so before we dive into the hands-on practice, I'll turn it over to Yasmin, because what we'll focus on today as our change is, our trend is the AI technology in education. So I'll pass it on to our youth facilitator, Yasmin, to provide an overview.
Thank you. Okay, so today I'm really excited to talk to you about artificial intelligence and its effects in education, either if they're negative or positive effects. So let's start. What's AI? So basically, AI refers to computer systems that mimic human intelligence, enabling them to perform tasks that usually require human cognition. So it's a fascinating field that encompasses various technologies, such as machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, computer vision, and robotics. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. So let's briefly explore some AI technologies and their application. We first have machine learning that involves training computers to make predictions based on data, like Netflix recommending movies based on what you like, and also Amazon, which recommend products based on what you want or what you have previously ordered. So that's how a recommending system works. And then we have the deep learning, which is a subset of the machine learning, and it uses artificial neural networks to analyze complex patterns as identifying objects in images and so on. Then we have natural language processing, which is NLP, that enables computers to understand and generate human language, like virtual assistants such as Siri and Alexa that we all use in our daily life. Then we have computer vision, which is one of my favorite, that allow computers to interpret visual information as self-driving cars, recognizing pedestrians and traffic signs on the road, which helps cars to actually see and interact with the environment that is surrounding them. And lastly, we have robotics that combines AI with physical systems to create intelligent machines, like collaborative robots, also known as cobots, if you've heard about it before, that works alongside humans in manufacturing tasks. Okay, so now let's explore how AI is positively impacting education. First, let's start with the positive impacts, and then we'll go to the negative impacts after we finish. So the first thing we have is the personalized learning, as AI enables tailored learning experiences like platforms such as Khan Academy, which tell you exactly what you want, and then it suggests lessons that you need to focus on based on what you had before and what you want to have in the future. Then the intelligent tutoring, which is AI-powered system offer immediate personalized feedback, as Duolingo that we use to learn new languages. It basically recommends you certain exercises for what you want. And then enhanced accessibility. It assists students with disabilities such as speech recognition systems that help those with hearing impairments to help them to have the same knowledge as people using computers or using AI specifically. Then we have automation of tasks and data-driven decision. So data-driven decision making, so basically AI analyzes educational data to provide insights for educators to support students effectively. While AI brings benefits, there are potential challenges to consider, which are the negative impacts of AI. So it has equity and accessibility. It's not for everyone. Access to AI technology, especially for underserved communities. Then another negative effect of AI is the over-reliance on technology, striking a balance between technology and human interaction to foster social and emotional development. And then one of the most important negative effects of the AI is the privacy and data security. It's not 100% privacy. We don't have 100% privacy, so it's not really private. So we should implement robust safeguards to protect student data from any breaches that could ever happen. And then the ethical consideration and the teacher role and job displacement. So viewing AI as a tool to augment teachers' capability rather than replace them. So we should use AI to help teacher in their job instead of replacing them. So AI technologies offer immense potential in education. They provide personalized learning experiences, intelligent tutoring, enhanced accessibility, and so on. However, we must address challenges like equity concerns and over-reliance in technology. So by doing so, we can ensure AI in education creates a positive and inclusive learning environment. So thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
All right, thank you, Yasmin. That was a great overview. So this is just a taste of to get you started on thinking about the potential impacts. Again, we want to be as broad as possible, think about all the potential futures of AI. Next is, could you, slide? Okay, great. So next we're gonna practice on the mural board. So first, so April, I'm gonna share my screen so I can share the mural board. Before I share the link to, to the mural board, I wanted to orient you, especially for those who have not used it before, to this, this tool. And you'll see here, I'm going to full screen. Once you click on the link, you should be able to edit it. If you cannot, please let me know. But one of the first things you'd want to do is look at the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and the second icon, which says navigation settings. Click on that, and then make sure that you're in the right navigation setting. If you are using a trackpad, you click on that. And then if you're using a trackpad, you just use your forefinger and thumb to pinch the trackpad to zoom in and out. And then you can use the 2-finger swipe to move the board around, up, down, left, right. If you are using a mouse, make sure you click on the mouse mode. You can zoom with your mouse wheel, and then you can right-click on your mouse and drag the board to move it around. Okay, so that's the first thing that I encourage you to do, is make sure you're in the right setting. The second thing is the other icon, the first icon. So next to the navigation settings is the move mode or the editing mode. So if you click on it once, you'll see there's a hand that appears. That means you're in move mode, meaning you can move the board around. If you click on it again, it's editing enabled, meaning you can start editing. Okay. So if for some reason you are not able to type on any of these bubbles, make sure you click on this and that you're in editing enabled. Finally, a helpful tool is the undo button. So sometimes you might accidentally move something, or you want to undo an action. So you'll see here at the top left corner, right next to the title, Futures Real World Futures Day, there's a curved arrow that curves to the left, and this is the undo button. Okay. Any questions before I share this with everybody? Okay. So I will stop share for a moment and then make sure that everyone has this link. And this is not going to be a full-blown futures wheel, because typically it takes longer than 15 minutes to work on this. So this will just give you a taste of what it feels like to use the futures wheel. Okay, so the link is in the chat box. So if you'd like to go ahead and click on that, let me know if you're able to see it. Thumbs up if you can, or just share that out loud that you are able to access it or not. Okay, good. Okay, so when you're working on the board, make sure that you're working on the board that you just clicked. I will now share my screen. Sometimes people will try to click on my screen, but make sure that you're clicking on your own board. Okay, so I'm going to share. Good, so I'm seeing some participants here. So far, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and get us started. So this is, and you can see my screen, right? The Teach the Future. Okay. AI, technology, and education. This is our topic, so I'm going to write it down at the center of the wheel. But before you get started, I just wanted to remind everybody, the blue is the domain is society, so anything related to society and the first order. And then you don't have to worry about the domains when you start writing down second order and third order. Okay. And then the green bubble, the first order is technology. Economy is the brown bubble. Purple is environment. And then the pink is politics or philosophy. So when you talk about diminished cognitive skills, where would this be under politics or philosophy or somewhere else?
Because it's got to do with the human experience and human condition, I've just put it as under politics and philosophy, because you have the educational policy, and then I guess AI is seen as a savior to cut down on teachers, unfortunately, but also on the overall cost. Perhaps even send students put on their goggles. So it's may have or manipulation. I mean, I was going to add disinformation. So, but I mean, I may be wrong. So
Yeah, I can see it in that or society, because this is about the people, right? And how they behave, how they think, how they act. So it could be both. But that's good. This is good. This is a way for us to start discussing, right? Good. So we have diminished cognitive skills. We have energy powerhouses, forests cut down for space. Who wrote that, and can you tell us more about that?
So that was me. I'm just going to go and update that, because initially I was like going to sort of write about the more of the negative aspect, but I guess we're doing the positive. Like, I'm not really sure exactly.
No, you can choose a negative. Yes.
Okay.
I remember you can choose both positive and negative. And we're just, again, this is just a taste of it. We're not doing a full-blown futures wheel. But go ahead and feel empowered to write negative consequences. Yeah, great. Good. And then economy, greater banking security, economic transparency. Tell us more about this direct result of AI tech and education.
Yeah, I had just with greater AI tech and education, there'd be more AI applications into I would think banking education, some more, the blockchains and some of the greater security that comes along with that.
Okay, great. And then let's see, growing need to have technical skills, access to tech solutions. Say more about that, please.
Yeah, hey everyone. So what I meant by that is that in order for us to fully grasp the potential of AI, the teachers need to have the understanding of what kind of, what do they do and what kind of benefits do they bring to the table in order to be able to tell the students about it. And of course, students are right now way ahead, like, in their understanding of AI and how they can be used. So that's a gap that actually needs to be closed pretty quickly.
Great, thank you. And then finally, society evaluation and feedback for student growth. Could you explain more about that?
Sorry, I was muted. I included that because, as we've mentioned, a lot of students are using all of the AI. So as educators, how can we harness that so that students can continue to grow and use that AI to give them that really important feedback, so that they can continue to grow and develop in this area and have some lasting benefits for society.
Okay, great. Thank you. So these are the direct results that you've identified using when we use AI tech in education. So this is the trend that we're anticipating. Now, for the second order consequences, make sure that you're really focusing on that first order consequence. What are the results? What are the impacts of that first order consequence? And this time you don't have to just think about your particular domain's consequences. Now you can think about the consequences for any domain. So for example, the evaluation and feedback for student growth, you can think about what's the impact on technology, what's the impact on the environment, right? Or our economy or our politics or philosophy, okay? So for example, if everybody scaled and used ChatGPT, what does that mean for data centers, water usage to make sure that the data centers are being cooled, right? What does that mean for our environment? Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes to just reflect on each of these first order consequences and try to think of at least one second order consequence for each of these results, each of these direct consequences. When you say further exacerbates climate change issues, what is it? What exactly? Which issue? What about it?
So, for example, like if you're looking at the temperature, right, like global warming specifically, when it increases, we have sea level increases, which in turn would lead to issues like flooding, which we've seen happen in a lot of countries. And of course, it's not only because of, how all of the powerhouses are there, but it can also just add to the current problems.
Yes, so I would encourage you to be specific. So for example, flooding, more flooding in certain areas, right? That way you can really visualize, okay, so what happens when there's more flooding in certain areas? What are the consequences of that? And then you can even, expand on that, right? What are the other issues around climate change? You can put that in another bubble, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're doing this, it helps when you're very specific about the impact. That way you can clearly imagine and vividly imagine what the futures might be. So here under diminished cognitive skills, we have human evolution divides students into super skills and those left behind. Interesting. Tell us more about that.
It's to do with access to nutrition, say those who are able to get food supplements and good health oversight and fresh food versus I've studied in the US, and as a student, obviously, the cheap and unhealthy food was much more easier and affordable. but then obviously it does terrible things to your body, mind, and soul. So in that regards, with diminished cognitive capacity, some people are going to ride the wave. They're going to make the best out of those resources. So, it's kind of like you have the laptop. So how do you use your laptop? Well, think of it like a pie chart. What kind of software you are using? How are you spending your time? And as people get accustomed to things being conveniently served for them, they wouldn't bother ever, say, cook their own food, but just strictly rely on prepared foods.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because of an over-reliance on AI tech, for example, because of that diminished cognitive skills, then their decisions about their health might also diminish.
Indeed, actually, we are already seeing it. When I used to run a Google search, I would go to the very last page, but these days most younger users prefer to pick up for items from first couple of pages. So that should change because obviously Google only that is no longer functioning like a library catalog. So let's put it that way.
You also have another negative consequence, the population open to propaganda, disinformation. So that's definitely a harm, a potential harm, right? And then after the third order consequence of that would be hysteria, turmoil, disregard for civil values and courtesy. So this is a good example of how specific you can be in terms of identifying the unintended consequences or the negative impacts.
And this is a pattern that I've actually seen way back in 2012. You had the Rock the Vote and several platforms encouraging younger voters to vote. But whilst that's being done, there was like stuff that is influence operations, psychological warfare it cannot be used on civilian populations. But the biggest problem is civilians are utilizing those techniques against other civilians. So the whole idea of influence, mind map, and modifying behavior and all the way, obviously, it led up to both propaganda companies plus hostile foreign influence.
Great. So when we do this is helpful because the way you act on your futures wheel is you start brainstorming on what ways might we mitigate, eliminate, or avoid these types of consequences. Okay, great. So that was great and specific. Now let's move on to society. So we see that evaluation and feedback for student growth is a positive consequence. And for a second order consequence, we see the physical schools deemed an unnecessary cost. Tell us more about that.
Well, I was trying to figure out I was trying to interpret evaluation and feedback for student growth. And so if it's more AI tech-driven education, a lot of the materials you might have on hand or at home, so the need to actually bring people into physical schools seems a bit unnecessary in that situation.
Good. So more virtual classroom settings. Good. Okay. Provides innovative ways to give personalized feedback. So this is a positive consequence. Okay. So now thinking about what you just said, Scott, now that there will be more virtual classrooms and physical schools are maybe deemed unnecessary, what would be the results of that? If we had more virtual schools and the physical school costs are down, what would happen? Okay, feel free to really brainstorm on that, on the physical school deemed an unnecessary cost. What are the consequences of that in different domains? What is the consequence for technology, for teachers, for students, for staff? for policy, for resources, for the environment, for philosophy? You know, will our education philosophy change? Will our educational policies change?
Education sector is is quite resilient and resistant against threats, disruptions, problems. And
Yes.
I, as a troublemaker student, can attest to it from my middle school and high school. But looking at things from a much more serious lens, when you think of the active shooter instances, both the school and the law enforcement makes the necessary preparations, trains the students, and gets their mind. Perhaps, obviously, is there going to be a trauma? Yes, but you minimize it to the least amount, and you are resilient. So that is a success story, a survival story. So perhaps there isn't even a trauma. Yes, there's an initial shock, but then it's a resilience, it's a hero. So they're just really going to look at how they actually emerge and respond to the threat. So I guess that would be the mindset of education.
Yes, so write that down in terms of as a consequence of schools being more virtual, no physical schools or campuses, or not no, but fewer physical environments. Okay, great. Let's move on to technology. And you mentioned, so what are the novel and innovative platforms? Did someone write about that?
I did. So just it's evolution. So educators try to find ways to reach out to the students and focus on core competencies and the necessary curriculum to get it across and maintain the human development.
Okay, great. Health problems with constant screen usage. What kinds of health problems? I can see posture problems, could be vision problems. What else?
I think it would be equivalent to, as the doctors are saying, equivalent to smoking. Skeletal problems, circulation, heart condition, high blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of creates a vicious cycle, and then you could add in the ask any medical professional to enter in the risks and threats associated with it.
So more screen time leads to poorer health, right? So less exercise, less movement, things like that. Mental
Exposure to
health,
radiation. Sorry, please go ahead.
radiation, and also addiction. The third order is AI addiction, getting addicted to AI in the similar ways that people are addicted to phones, right? To their smartphones.
Exposure to radiation, because I had a friend of mine whose mom who was a advanced math person, and she started using computers from like late 1970s for central bank. But back then, computers were much bigger, much clunkier, and over 35 years, her health deteriorated. And he said it was just the radiation from the computer.
Yeah. All right. What about the greater banking security and economic transparency? Let's see. Let's hear from someone about the new wave of innovative tech crimes.
I was just kind of going off of the whole notion of as technology changes, those wishing to do bad with technology tend to be about a step or two ahead of those attempting to do good with it. So I figured.
Yeah. Great. And the overflow of tech solutions, who will be the big fish?
Yeah, so that's from the teacher's perspective, like trying to, or education system perspective, depending on who we're talking about. But but trying to kind of navigate in which tools to use, because there will be a huge boom of different options to choose from, and trying to kind of narrow it down to some kind of industry norm, so to speak. Like we have Google and we have Microsoft right now that we use all the time, like what will be the next and how it will affect the economy. Will everybody buy that big company's solution, or what's going to happen?
Yes. So think about those. Think about what are the results of that overflow of tech solutions in terms of increased competition. What might be a consequence of that? And then write it down in the third order bubble. Good. So now your third order consequence, Scott, would be governments and financial institutions hiring young talent to keep ahead of the wrongdoers. So really countering these crimes, the tech crimes. So a whole new industry might result from this. And a whole new set of skills, right? Okay. And then finally, because this is going to be our last bubble here, we talked about what is the new wave of conservationism. Preferably someone that we haven't heard from. Can someone speak to less travel for conferences due to virtual conferencing, or the new wave? Actually, Amna, you talked about flooding, so you talked about evacuation as the third order.
Yes, and then about the less travel as well, reduced carbon emissions, because as we mentioned about the virtual spaces, so more and more are being shifted online even during COVID.
Okay.
So yeah.
Great. Good. So this is a taste of what you would do. So you can imagine that the wheel can be really, really big. So the next step for you after you've exhausted as a group, Penguin, go ahead. Do you have you raise your hand?
Yeah, that's my son. He put it here.
Oh, hi. How are
I'm sorry, my son put my name there. It's Penguin. Yeah.
Kumar?
I have that, perhaps now we give frequent flyer miles to people who travel a lot. Perhaps you then need to penalize people who are above a certain level in a particular area. Why not penalize them?
Yeah.
So that's, we talk about wave of conservatism. Perhaps that could be one thing. You travel so much, please. No more frequent miles. Yeah.
Yes. So that's another third order consequence, right? That's a potential consequence of that. A new system for incentivizing or disincentivizing travel. Okay, great. So once you have exhausted the different possibilities, and this is best done when there's an interdisciplinary, diverse group with different perspectives, because the more perspectives you have, the more subject matter expertise in different domains, the more that you'll able to foresee different kinds of impacts, whether negative or positive. So the next step after your group has felt like they've exhausted different possibilities for the future, the next step would be to act on your futures wheel. And to do that, and I'm sharing my screen now with all of you, to do that, you can categorize the positive and negative consequences. So you could simply copy and paste the consequences into two different boxes. From there, you would plot these consequences in a probability and impact matrix. So here you'll see on the x-axis the probability of this particular consequence happening. You could discuss as a group whether it's a low probability or a high probability. Is this most likely going to happen or probably not? right? And then after that, you can determine too, what is the impact of this particular consequence? Is it going to have a big impact in our society? Is it going to not really matter as much? And that same thing with the negative consequences. Plot the likelihood of this consequence happening and what is the impact, right, on society. And then after you've done that, and we don't have to do this now because we don't have time, but you would brainstorm on how you might increase the probability of the positive consequences, right? What can you do now so that you can increase the likelihood that this positive impact will happen in the future? And then also for the negative consequences, what can you do now to eliminate or mitigate or avoid those negative consequences that are most likely going to happen? Okay, so this is how you would use a futures wheel. You would first brainstorm, kind of like a mind map, always done best in an interdisciplinary group, intergenerational, even better. And then brainstorm on ways that you can act on these potential consequences. All right, any questions before we start wrapping up and answering some of your questions? Okay. All right, and I think we have a few minutes, Amna, for some question and answer for us.
Yes, so if anyone has any questions, or unmute yourself, you can.
What are your thoughts about this tool? I know some of you have already used it.
But if you don't mind, could I?
Go ahead, Umar.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's an amazing tool. I've been using it with kids. So I remember last time I used it with kids, we were looking at what if we have two, we've got an issue that there are lots of people, lots of kids who are not enrolled in school. So we asked those kids that say, what if we have two shifts in school, one an afternoon shift and one in the morning? They came up with some amazing stuff like, when people will be in the afternoon, you'll have more thefts there because their homes will be empty. I mean, those sorts of stuff. And I'm amazed what people come up with when you share it with them. I used it about 10 years ago. We were looking at the minerals in Afghanistan. We looked at some amazing stuff over there with the futures wheel. Amazing things came out. We looked at different scenarios, even scenarios like which seemed impossible at that time, like the coming back of the Taliban and going away of the American forces and NATO forces and things like that, which didn't seem possible at all at that particular time. But we were able to map those out. So I think it's a wonderful tool, and the way you've done it, that's great. I never did the positive and negative consequences thing. I really would love to see how that's done, but perhaps that's something if you could share, that would be
Yes.
really useful. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, and you now have the link to that mural board, so feel free to go ahead and play with that, the matrix. And I was impressed with everybody learned Mural really quickly. It's a great tool for real-time online collaboration. Okay.
I must thank for the awesome facilitation because I always had my troubles with the Mural board. It was the way in which yourself and your April provided the encouragement and the positive vibes. So very thankful for that.
Good. Thank you. I'm glad. Good. Good, Amelia. Good. So you're saying it's better for areas with low internet connectivity. That's really good to know, Amelia.
Thank you. On a very different note, Dr. Bia, when is your TEDx talk coming out? I'm waiting for it.
It's a TED talk on decolonizing futures. It's anytime between now and August. because they are going through post-production right now. So I recorded it in February. I went to New York to record it, but I actually talk a little bit about the Futures Wheel in that talk. So I'll make sure to send everybody that link on decolonizing education.
Wonderful, wonderful.
TED Talk.
Great.
And if I may, the internet signal and the broadcast signals in general are going to be affected by due to climate change and even solar flares. So that's also going to may create surprises, or even, heaven forbid, but just countries deciding to bring down each other's satellites.
Oh, yeah. See, that's where the Futures Wheel comes in, right? So you write this all down and then you prepare for these potential impacts. How might you react to those situations and scenarios? Okay. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. And special shout out to Yasmin, our youth facilitator. And we represent actually different parts of the world, the facilitators. So I am in Arizona, but originally from the Philippines, and April is based in the
Florida.
US. But right now, are you in Thailand or Singapore?
No, I'm home.
Oh, you're home now.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
She had been traveling in Southeast Asia, and Yasmin is calling in from Egypt. So thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to share a wonderful tool, Futures Wheel. And I hope you use it in your various contexts, and let me know how you've been able to integrate it into your work.
Thank you for sharing all your great ideas.
Thank you again. So we are reaching the end of our time for this session. We want to thank you all for participating. There will be conversations happening the next hour. So if you are available, we encourage you to stay on for the next session as well. In the chat box, I've dropped a participation survey